Hey, congratulations for Medieval.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
This was one of the films I highly recommended people to watch in theater, but now it's coming out to people's home entertainment systems.
Yeah, I know, I know. It's still in the Czech theaters, and it's been here 5 weeks already, and we are 5 weeks number one in box office here in the Czech Republic. So it's really pretty cool.
It is a terrific movie. But Peter, let me ask you this: where the original story came from for Jan Žižka? I understand he's a hero of your home country.
Yeah, he is one of seven never defeated generals of all time, like Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great. And we learn about him at school. So he is, real hero here. He's like the most famous, like top five person in the Czech Republic. So yeah, but he was more famous when he was older, and this is like how it started. So this is like basically from year 1402, and it's about him being a mercenary and fighting for money, and then just like changing and fighting for something else, for some higher reasons.
Now, why did you want to start with the younger version of Jan rather than the popularized version of when he was older?
Because when he was young, he was paid killer basically because he was a mercenary, and I wanted to also show this part of him, and then I wanted to show the transition to somebody else who was fighting for something what he believed in, and for justice, for freedom, and so that was the main reason. And I thought like when he was older, like which was when he was the most famous, it was like 18 years after this story. It was not that interesting for me because I wanted to do a story about him and not about his whole life. I wanted to do just like for people to show how the medieval times were, to describe it as realistic as possible, and also to remind something what is important for me in these days, like faith. And if you see something what you don't like, uh, do something about it. And also fighting for freedom and justice, all these principles are very important to me, especially in these days, because what is happening around us still surprises me. So I think it's good to remember some principles. And also I'm very proud that I'm Czech, and I wanted to show like remember about our history, so remind ourselves like we've got great history.
Now, how true to the story did you stick with your film, or did you have to fictionalize quite a bit?
Uh, we don't know too much about these basically times, when Jan Žižka was young, when he was like 35 or something. And so I used everything what I could find out about him. And then I had to create his, personal story, which I knew something about it, but it was basically created to make it work, but I used all the politics as it was, and everything what I knew. So what I found out. So you always have to change it to make it work in 2 hours. And because I had an editor of Braveheart, Steve Rosenblum, who was editing also The Last Samurai, we were discussing this a lot, and we agreed that we have to do the spine of the movie about love story of Jan Žižka and Catherine. And that's basically that was very important for me, like this emotional level, because then you can have a lot of fights here, a lot of politics here, but you have to focus on I mean, we hope that people can focus on the story of these two main characters.
Absolutely. Now, it's For any director, it is a very big challenge to to direct a project on this scale, about a medieval story. Can you tell us about the challenges for your film? Particularly, I believe this is probably the biggest project to date for you.
Yeah, this is the third project I produced, I wrote, and I directed. So it's always much more complicated if you do all these things together. So I didn't have that much time, like if I just directed it. So I had to focus on producing it, during the whole movie, during the whole production, and also if we decided to rewrite something, I had to rewrite it too. So it was like it was very difficult, but I was trying to focus on directing during the shooting as much as possible. And I had always, I had already my visions in my head for so long time that I didn't need that big preparation. But sometimes I didn't have enough time to explain everybody around me what I want to do. So it was difficult because I just like, I was trying to explain everybody as much, as I wanted. But yeah, sometimes I was missing some time, for that.
Great. And the locations that you chose, it is impressive. Were they hard locations to lock down these castles in these landscapes?
I shot everything in the Czech Republic because I wanted to show how beautiful castles we have here, beautiful forests, landscapes, and everything. So it was not that difficult to find these places here, but it was difficult to find, schedule for them to shoot in them because those it's difficult in the castles, because those were real castles. And so I knew that with this budget, which was 20 million, approximately $20 million, I couldn't shoot it anywhere else, and to make it look big. And also because when I was writing the script, I wrote every scene to a different location, which is great for the movie because it looks bigger. But on the other side, it's much more difficult for production because you have to move very quickly from one place to another, and it was much more expensive. But I believe that it was a good decision at the end of the day because it looks the production value of the movie looks bigger because of that.
And one more thing, you touched upon it. How proud of you that you stuck to the realism for this movie, because that was the reason why I recommended it to everybody, because it to me it looked like the battle looks real.
Yeah, I always wanted to show it as real as possible because I felt like if we show people how medieval times really were, they would feel that like they are part of the movie, but part of the medieval times. And I wanted to show also the ugly and bad things which were happening at that time, but also the beautiful nature and castles, architecture. Prague, you get Charles bridges there, and all that, the combination to make it look as real as possible, and that was my goal.
Well, mission accomplished. It is a terrific story, and it is beautifully shot. Now I want to visit Czechoslovakia myself. So thank you very much for this conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you a lot. Take care. Bye bye.